Today we are taking a look at Skylanders in its revamped form here in 2021. I'm Gacha J, this is your home for Gacha news analysis and reviews. Let's go. Skylanders Ring of Heroes did a huge revamp to the game because apparently the old system was very pay to win and a lot of people were complaining about it. They seem to have kept a lot of the user base that they had, which was relatively small, and they've transitioned to a new game. I will go ahead and tell you that if you like Summoner's War or Raid Shadow Legends, you're gonna like this because this is a copy of Raid Shadow Legends, which is a copy of Summoner's War. The progression system, the gameplay, all of that feels very similar to you, which isn't a bad thing when compared to all Gacha games. The first thing I do want to talk about overall is the graphics. I really enjoyed the graphics. This game is not a game centric around waifus. It is not a game that's even trying to captivate you by how hardcore it is. It is a very fun and loving game. And honestly, guys, I really appreciate that. Family-friendly gacha games are something that we desperately need in this industry. I felt very comfortable playing this around my wife, around kids, in parties, different events, showing it to people what I'm going on. It felt very Pokemon-esque with a little bit more polish to the way that it presents to you what it's doing. So overall, I gave the graphics 7 out of 10. It wasn't really unique in the way its graphics were presented to you, but it felt really strong. And it brings back some of your favorites, like Spyro. Now, the story itself was definitely not geared towards someone like me. I gave it a 3 out of 10. There was nothing redeeming to me out of the story, but I could tell that maybe a kid could get interested in it. I didn't even find the jokes that they were trying to make relatively humorous. They were just not for me. I honestly expect anybody that has the capacity to find and watch this video is not going to enjoy the story. So even for a kid, if it's maybe like a 6 out of 10, for us adults that are generally above the age of 25, it gets a 3 out of 10. They tried. Now, the progression system is really where Summoner's War, Raid Shadow Legends, and Skylanders really come into play. That is really very captivating about these games. The progression system for me gets a 7 out of 10. It may not be unique on the surface of the way that it plays about, but that is not a bad thing. It is the industry standard way of progression for a very good reason. You feel like you're hitting walls at the appropriate times in the game, and you can grind past them. I will say that Skylanders is a relatively grindy game. It took me more than a week to beat the base campaign and to level my heroes. The game does a really bad job of giving you the ability to level your heroes and acquire gold, which it seems like it wants to do because as you are progressing through the levels, it feels like your characters are appropriately geared and leveled for that scenario, which is a really strong thing about it. So though compared to all gacha games, I didn't feel like the progression system was as rewarding as a lot of others. I felt the game was optimized around that lack of progression in a very healthy way. So I gave it a 7 out of 10 for that way. I think if you were to just look at your experience with the actual progression itself, it would be closer to a 5, maybe a 4. But when you compare it to the entirety of the game and what it's presented to you in terms of difficulty level, it's much stronger. Gameplay, I gave it a 7 out of 10 as well. I think the way that they did team comps and team compositions is very strong. I found myself really exploring a lot of different heroes and seeing how they could truly be beneficial to what I was trying to do. It has more of a mana-based system than Raid Shadow Legends does. You are really operating off of your mana reserves to be able to use anything. There's not base auto attacks that people can do for free. There's also cooldowns and things of that sort. I felt like I was playing a mix between Hearthstone and Raid Shadow Legends, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. The gameplay, though, is a little slow. It was really strong, so I gave it a 7 out of 10, and I think they could actually get it up to an 8 with better optimization from that end. And uniqueness, it also got a 7 out of 10 for me. I thought that even though it is a strong IP with Spyro, they brought a lot of other champions into the mix that are heroes, I guess this game would call them, that was very captivating to me. I enjoyed looking at what the game is presenting to me. I enjoyed the level design. All of the bosses in themselves cracked me up, just the irony of the character. And I think you can get a lot of wit and charm out of what the game presents to you. I gave it a 7 out of 10 on the uniqueness, and I think that's fairly appropriate for what the game brings to the table. Now, monetization and community are both fairly low. They're both at a 4 out of 10, and I really think that you would agree with that once you get into the system. Both Summoner's War and Raid Shadow Legends are very much known for jumping out at you and trying to steal your wallet. I think Skylanders is a little bit better in the way that it handles that. The 5 stars in the game are not really as strong as a lot of the 3 stars, and 2 stars can even be very, very strong just based off the way that you can progress them. So I felt that even though the game is really restricting in the amount of characters that it gives you, you can really do a lot with them. So even though I'm not saying it's a good monetization system, I'm not saying it's a truly bad one either. It's one you can tolerate at a 4 out of 10. And then the community itself is relatively small, but it seems like it has a lot of diehard fans that aren't really overly pessimistic about the viewpoint of Skylanders, and they enjoy it for what it is. So I gave it a 4 out of 10 as well, purely based off size. They did not get any boosts or negatives when it came to sentiment. Overall, Skylanders for me came around a 5.57, which is a relatively healthy review for a game. An average game in Gacha is a 5, so slotting above a 5 means that I think it's an above average game. I don't think it rises to the occasion of a good game, where a 6 or higher does. So slotting between a 5 and a 6 is very appropriate. Compared to its counterpart like Raid Shadow Legends, Skylanders is a very, very big win for those of you that like the Skylanders style and enjoyed the progression systems of something like Raid Shadow Legends. If there was anything in this review that stuck out to you, I think it may be worth trying. Anything above that finishes above a 5, in my opinion, may be a game that you find as your main game.